right, this is Mass of Nyarlathotep. This is going to be episode 19A, or 19.5. This is our little mid-point episode between our normal ones, where we're going to take care of a couple of interesting things. First of all, Natalya is following Mr. Gavigan after he left the Diamondback Club, and we're going to see where that goes. And then later on, Alice goes home, and something interesting will happen there. Although I think she also thought she might stop off at her uncle's hotel. So either or both of those things, that will be later in the show. All right, so let's go. Where were we? We were in, I set this up here. It is nighttime. There's Gavigan walking along the streets, and you have just left the the pub where you were dining. It is still cold. There's a little bit of a fog that has risen as the sun has gone down, and it's getting darker. You can still make out his form up ahead, but your visibility is slightly limited to probably about 100 yards or so, effectively. After that, shadows just start being shadows, and it's hard to distinguish things.
Mm-hmm.
So you have dragged Alan out the door, and he's kind of slightly disoriented, but coming along.
And Natalya quickly shrugs on her coat, pulling it around her neck, and taking Alan's healthy hand into her, and starts pursuing Gavigan. She looks over to Alan, but apologetic. I'm sorry to drag you into this, but we really need to follow that man and attempt to appear as not stalker-like as possible.
He says, I suppose we could just be a couple out for a walk.
That's well, this second phase of my plan is going on the walk with you, so this all ties together.
You're very clever. You sure you're really following this guy?
Well, you got me. This is all an excuse to get you away from my friends. They're a bit crowding sometimes.
Yeah, they seemed all right.
They are. Sometimes we disagree, but for the most part, they're good people.
So he looks on ahead. You can see Gavigan. I assume you're not. So by the time you get out the door, he is, he's almost at the limit of your good vision. So you could lose him. Are you going to try to follow him kind of at the edge of what you can see? Are you going to hurry to make up some ground? About how far back are you trying to stay from him?
Natalya doesn't want to lose Gavigan, so she kind of ushers Alan forward.
Okay.
Hurries a bit forward to attempt to get him in closer sight lines while still maintaining handhold.
This is a fairly busy area of the city. Even, it's not that late at night yet. So there are other people on the sidewalks. So it's not like you two stick out too much, as walking along. There are other people walking along too. Okay. So he walks along, And about a block further down, he takes a right onto another street. And so you have momentarily lost sight of him. What's your approach to that?
So Natalya looks at Alan and nods, "Come on," and she rushes towards the kind of where he turned. She's not gonna turn the corner very quickly. She's gonna at least peek around the corner before turning it, seeing how far away he is once they've caught up.
All right. Yeah, you hurry along, you get to the corner, and you can see that that he's up ahead. He's still walking, and you've kind of closed the distance though because you hurried up. So you're maybe now 50 yards behind him, and you kind of peer around the corner. Why don't you make a stealth check for me? I'll give you a bonus die.
Oh. It didn't help.
No, it didn't. You're not super stealthy to begin with. Okay, so you're walking. Everything seems fine. There's no obvious repercussions of that.
All right.
What do you do next?
So she continues to follow and looks over at Alan. "I promise that after this is done, I'll make it up to you. I apologize for derailing the evening."
He kind of shrugs, or you can barely perceive the shrug in his heavy coat. But he says, "Oh, I don't mind, as long as we don't fall on our arse."
As long as there's not ice on the ground, I think we should be fine.
Yeah, you had an almost spill on your rush over here, but you were fine. Okay, so you follow along. This street is actually pretty close. You passed Alice's little side street, just about a block back. And he takes it, but she would have taken a left a block back to go to Alice's. Now you're going to the right. He's walking along. You can see he has his umbrella, and he's just kind of, tapping it along the sidewalk as he walks with a sort of even gait. He's not really looking around behind him or anything. He doesn't appear to be very cautious. He's just walking along at a leisurely pace. So it's not that hard to keep up with him.
Alright.
And he goes down a couple more blocks and then takes a left, and he crosses the street first, goes to the other side, and then takes a left. It kind of dead ends here a little bit, or tees rather.
Okay.
So now you are in the side of his vision now, rather than behind him.
Ooh. She might wait for him to walk a bit more forward.
Okay.
Maybe pausing with Alan, and looking like she's kind of getting a bit closer, as she's kind of still keeping eyes on Gavigan.
Alright, I'll let you make another stealth check with a bonus die. That's alright. Okay. The two of you kind of stand there, and Alan takes advantage of the kind of stop, and he says, You seem cold, Natalya." and he just kind of puts his arm around you and kind of pulls you a little closer.
Yes, I was feeling a bit chilly. Talia's a little bit, seems a bit embarrassed, but she's smiling at Alan. And she's still kind of glancing over to
He
Gavigan.
says, "Are you blushing, or is that the cold?"
It can be both.
And he kind of looks over his shoulder, and he says, "So we really are following that fella, aren't we?"
Yes, we definitely are.
He says, "I don't think he's seen us."
I do hope not. I will say, because this is most likely going to pertain to a story of yours. We know, though it is the newest proof that that man there is tied in with these killings that have been going on. But I just need more.
His face kind of scrunches up a little bit. And he said, "And you have some proof, you say?"
Yes. At least,
Now I am intrigued.
he's been in contact with some of the, this group from New York. This group that is doing similar ritualistic killings. Not the same method, of course. But it is proof enough that they have been in contact. And
As you're saying that, he kind of looks over and says, we're losing sight of him. We should get moving again."
yes, she kind of pulls away and continues pursuing Gavigan. she kind of locks arms with Alan at this point.
Okay. Make a spot hidden check for me.
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of you don't see you see other people. You're not really sure you see him because it's just as I said, it's hard to make out shapes at this distance. What do you want to do?
Shucks, Alan. Did you see where he went?
Well, you saw the direction he went. He went left when it teed and walked up the street. So you know what direction he was heading. You just, as you were kind of talking, you lost sight of him for a minute because you were focusing on Alan and trying to not be obvious. And when you look back, you see, 2 or 3 people kind of down that way, and you're not really sure which is him or if actually any of them are him.
Yes, then she'll kind of speed up with Alan in tow, going down the street that Gavigan went down, trying to get sight of his umbrella again.
All right, try a dexterity check with a bonus die.
Oh no.
Okay, you didn't fumble. But yes, you're rushing along through the street, and there are icy patches on the street now. And you and Alan do kind of tumble a little bit, lose your balance, and make a power check for me. Okay. You don't cry out as you lose your footing, at least. Let's see how he does. I'm going to roll privately for him. Okay, he actually is fine. He actually helps you not to go down too hard. So he manages to help pick you back up again before you actually hurt yourself. And you've done it, reasonably quietly. And he just kind of helps you hurry along to the sidewalk. And then you push along. I'll let you make another spot hidden check with a bonus die.
Oh my god.
All right, I'll see if maybe he notices. He actually says, there he is up there, I see him.
Perfect. Thank you, Alan. She kind of rubs her back a bit.
And he says, oh, good thing too, he just took a right around that next corner.
Good. Let's watch the ground, but hurry on.
Okay. You make it up to the corner where he turned right, and when you peer around, you can see that he is, you know, you've made up that lost distance, and you can see him walking along. You recognize the familiar shape of him with his umbrella tapping along.
Yeah, Natalya rounds the corner and keeps following, kind of rubbing her hip a bit.
Yeah, and Alan kind of looks at you and smiles. He says, there, see? All's well.
So far, so good, I guess.
Okay. You're walking on this street. This street now is not commercial. This seems to have mostly apartment buildings. Rather nice ones, I might add. And you can see up ahead, further down the street, there's like a little park that stretches along that follows along this road to the left.
And where's he going at the moment?
He's just heading same on the right side of the street. He's heading along alongside the apartments on the sidewalk. He's just walking along.
And there's a park on the other side, you said?
There will be, not quite yet.
Oh.
You can see further up. You can make out a couple of trees and no buildings, so it must be a park. There are parks all over London, little ones.
Yeah. Well, there's a park we can go walking after.
All right. Let's keep our mind on the business at hand. We'll think about that later.
Of course.
Okay, so you walk along, and he goes another couple blocks, and now he's opposite the park, and you can see the park, in the dim moonlight, in clouds. The park does not look to have very many people in it at all, though again it's night and it's hard to tell. He walks along and goes almost to the end of that street where the park ends, and he kind of takes an abrupt turn to the right, and you can make a spot hidden check for me.
Nope.
Yep, you're not really sure. He just kind of, you saw him turn and then just kind of disappear against the dark backdrop of the apartment buildings.
Shit. And he's gonna keep going forward and looking out for him.
Okay. All right. You you get up to about where you saw him disappear. And it's quiet.
Natalya kind of looks around, looks to the right. As he made that abrupt turn. Is there anything down that way?
There's an apartment.
Oh. She's gonna make note of the apartment before kind of approaching it.
Okay.
Is there like a key to get in or anything like that?
No. There is an awning. Oh, you go up a short flight of steps, and then there's an awning, and a rather nice wooden doorway wooden door with some glass panes in it, kind of frosted glass. You can sort of see that there's light inside. And on the there's a little placard that says Grosvenor Apartments with the street address.
Okay, this was as far as Natalya kind of takes steps back from the door and whispers to Alan, "This is probably as far as we should go. Any more and it would be really breaking and entering at this point."
He kind of looks at the door. He says, well, it doesn't look like that's his apartment directly. It's a lobby of some sort, I would guess.
Well, maybe let's see if we can find his exact apartment. And she makes her way back to the door and quietly opens it.
Okay. You can see inside that there's a kind of a smallish entryway, and it's kind of long and narrow going back, and you can see that there is a staircase at the end that actually kind of comes back towards the front, you know, so you go back and you kind of come back and head up, and there is there's like a concierge desk with a man in a suit standing there, and you also see there is a lift directly across from you, way down at the other end of the hall, and a door behind him, the guy that's standing there, and he kind of, when you open the door even just a little, there's sort of a little bell at the top that kind of, you know, you sort of hit it a little bit, and so there's a half jingle, and he kind of looks up expectantly and just kind of looks at you.
Oh, hello there.
He says, "Evening, madam." And he again just kind of has this expectant look.
Yes, I do not know if I have, I apologize, the right address. My friend was fairly vague about where he lived. Do you mind if I inquire?
He comes out from behind his desk and starts walking in your direction. He says, "What address did your friend give you, ma'am?"
I got the address of this place.
Mm-hmm.
Could I discern, what would be like a nearby address, maybe?
Yep, make a luck roll.
Luck,
Or actually, make either a spot hidden or a luck, your choice.
Make a luck roll.
Go ahead. Okay, you say a number that you think sounds about right, and he says, I think you must have heard your friend wrong, ma'am. There's no such address on this street."
I apologize.
"Did he give you the name of an apartment? Most of the buildings along here are apartments like this one."
Unfortunately not. He was fairly vague with the details. I do think he was fairly intoxicated. And she'll look over to Alan and laugh a little.
Yeah. he kind of looks curiously at Alan, and Alan just kind of shrugs and smiles a little. And he says, "Well, it appears you've been misinformed, madam. My apologies."
Seems like it. Thank you. I apologize for disturbing you this evening.
"Oh, not at all. Best of luck to you." And he kind of holds the door for you.
She gives a nod and exits with Alan. And making our way down the steps. Well, at least we know where he lives, more or less. Maybe we could come back at a later date.
Well, I suppose it's time for a walk then.
Yes, there is that park.
It's right across the street.
She makes her way out of the building. Also, I am most likely going to need instruction on how to get back to the hotel. I am fairly lost.
Well, I do know my way around the city a bit. I'm sure I can get you home.
Well, I'm glad.
And that's what they have cabs for, anyway.
True, true. But if we can walk it, that would be nice.
He says, we could. It's a rather long one.
Maybe not then. But we can walk for now, and hopefully no more falling.
Sounds good to me. So he takes you across the way, and you walk a bit. What is the topic of conversation? Do you want to keep it light, or are there things you want to talk to him about?
Natalia kind of thinking that she's dragged Alan into this enough for the evening, not to really start up with the whole Gavigan thing. She mostly just asks about him. She just knows that his father has like deep political ties, so tries to probe into that more.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Why don't you... I'll let you just make a straight up psychology check. That's your best. Yeah, you were ready with that one. Yeah, you get him talking. You can see. I mean, in summary, the whole thing with his father is obviously a sore spot with him. His father, I think you said, is political. It's actually quite the opposite. His father is not political and wants his son to not be political. His father is a great admirer of the English, and he wants his son to be a great admirer of the English as well, and that's why he sent him to London. He's supposed to learn to be a proper English gentleman. He even paid for him to have voice coaching lessons so he could get rid of his Irish accent, which he has learned how to do, but you can tell it irks him to do it. And you definitely get the sense that Alan doesn't want to disappoint his father, but he already feels like he has. And that there's really no way that he's going to ever please him. He's on a path that will never let him do that. And obviously his father is not happy about him being a journalist, or as he says, as his father called him a couple of times, a muckraker.
Yeah. Natalia is kind of describing this. She stops in the park, kind of looks at Alan. It is always hard to be able to attempt to impress parents, to try and make them proud, as most of us are very different from them.
He says we don't have to be as different as night and day, though. In this case, I think it is the case.
And if you spend your time constantly in a cyclone of self-doubt, thinking about how disappointed your father
Oh,
might be, and you're
this
not
is,
gonna live for yourself.
I don't want to give you the wrong impression. It's not that I'm gonna stop doing what I'm doing. It's just, you know, he is me da.
Mm, of course. I, my parents, myself, are supportive of what I did. They even sent me to Switzerland to study.
Wow,
But
that's quite a
my,
quite a gift.
yes, though I don't think I've fully lived up to the potential yet. But my daughter is the one that I think is most disappointed in me.
Of course. I don't think you've ever told him you have a daughter, have you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he kind of he does look at you for a moment. You kind of caught him off guard with that comment, and he says, "So, he says, yes, children are forever ingrateful, as my father tells me often."
Mm. She shakes her head a bit. No, she's a wonderful girl. I did spend a lot of time trying to bring her over to America. Quite a few years apart, actually. And
She
when I... Hmm?
she here in London with you?
And again, Natalia shakes her head. No, we spent maybe a year or so together
I
when
see.
she finally came over.
Mm,
Before I came here,
ah,
again, leaving her behind.
I see. Left her with the father, eh?
Uh, she pauses, looking down, looking over the trees. No, the father left many, many years ago.
I see. Well, I'm sorry for that.
Yes, I seem to have awful luck uh, with people. Get left a lot.
He says, I'm afraid that happens to beautiful women more often than anyone would like to admit.
Hmm. Well, sometimes I wish it didn't.
He shrugs. Well, there's not much you can do about it now. You have to do what you believe in. Keep going.
Hmm. Exactly.
He just kind of takes a look at his bandaged hand and kind of laughs to himself a little bit. And he says, maybe we should be heading back. It's a long walk if you want to walk.
Sure. I like that. I don't mind walking with you.
Well, I'm pleased to hear it. So you walk along. Yeah, he'd like to hear more about you and your life in Russia. He admits he doesn't really know much about Russia, though he says he has to admit, he says he's no communist, but he has a soft spot for revolution. And he says he can understand when a people have had enough, that they have to take action. And he says, asks if you were part of the whole trouble there.
Just for timeline's sake. When did that all happen?
So that would have been, well, there were lots of strikes and that sort of thing, but really it was 1916, 1917 that the whole revolution was underway, and the whole white versus reds, and it was all during World War I. So the country was in chaos, and the Bolsheviks finally rose out of the ashes, if you will. They defeated their opponents. They took control of Moscow and began to solidify their hold on the country and negotiated a peace with the Germans.
She shakes her head again. No, I was studying at the time.
I see. Well, you're probably lucky then.
I guess I do know that I am much luckier than most. I mean, I did get to leave.
Yeah.
And again, well, I am happy to have been able to go to America. Happy to get Svetlana there as well.
America.
But
Sounds like a dream, that country.
it is, I mean, and she again looks over at Alan. I don't know how you feel about traveling.
He says, I'm not sure I know either. Only left Ireland to come here. Never been anywhere else.
Well, if you ever feel like traveling, maybe if you get a bit bored of the rain.
Oh, heaven forbid. No, we embrace the rain. It's kind of our brand.
Yes, must suffer with what's been given and all that.
I suppose so. The land wouldn't be as green if it weren't as wet.
True. Very true. Natalia smiles. She seems to be enjoying Alan's company. And really walks mostly arm in arm with him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would say that by the time you get back, he has worked up the courage to kiss you, if you let him.
Natalia would. She'd be fairly happy with that.
He's certainly not the first young man you have ever kissed. You can tell that he is not very experienced, shall we say.
Oh.
He's a little nervous, and it's not a very assertive kiss. But he seems very pleased. Maybe even a little dazzled afterwards. In fact, he's kind of got a stupid grin on his face afterwards.
And after Natalia just pulls back, holds his hands, and smiles to Alan. Well, if you'd, I'd like to do that again.
The kiss?
And
yes.
He
he kind of leans in to do another one.
And Natalia will indulge him.
All right. He's a little better that time. He seems to be a little more confident since you apparently asked him to kiss you again.
Apparently.
Yeah, so he you can see, though, that with your psychology, you can see that he's now kind of on cloud 9, and that's going to be about all he can handle for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, well, I'd best walk you in, but we should do this again.
Yes, I'd very much like that, Alan. Just let me know when, and I'll make sure to be available.
Well,
if you want to no more.
If you want to follow that fella again, I don't mind walking arm in arm with you.
Maybe
you need cover after all.
Yes, I definitely need someone to protect me.
I'll do my best. Got to heal up first. He kind of holds his hand up again.
Well, if you ever want to show me them protecting skills, well, that conversation's for another. And she
He just kind of smiles awkwardly, like he's not quite sure where you're going with all of that. But
she was going to suggest them fighting it out, but but she doesn't.
Well, he is an Irishman. All right, so yeah, he has walked you to the door and seen you in, and then he just kind of backs away, and he's kind of waving as he backs away and then turns back and waves again, and then walks away a few more steps, and then turns to kind of see if you're still watching him.
Yeah, she watches him until he leaves sightline.
Yeah, he gives one last awkward wave and then heads off down the sidewalk and disappears. This time it is Alice Hall and what happens to her after the group breaks up. After Natalya and her new beau go off to tail Gavigan, and the rest of the crew kind of disperses. Yeah. Okay. So when you leave, where did you plan to go after that?
It's nighttime at this point, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, so if Thaddeus and Shelley were kind of planning on going to the hotel and just
Mm-hmm.
back to whatever they were doing, Alice would probably call it a night and head back home, because she's been
Okay.
wanting to get back home early-ish in
Yes.
case Habiba and her son showed up.
Okay. Yeah, and it's not really early, so it's like
Yeah.
I think something around probably 9 in the evening.
Oof. Sorry,
Um,
Habiba.
so you return to your flat, and you can, as you walk in, um, and you're walking by your do we have any music? We do. Would you like some?
Oh, yeah. I just wasn't sure if you were intending for it to
No,
be
no,
quiet.
no. I don't have anything going.
Okay.
You when you walk in, um, your landlady, Mrs. Hudson, rushes. You can hear her, like you hear quick footsteps, and you recognize the clop of her heels on her wooden floor. You've heard it before when she's, when you've come home late and she wants to either remind you about the rent or something. She can hear the door opening, and she rushes to her door to intercept you before you can get to your apartment.
Okay. So we're meeting her kind of in the hallway or
In the hall.
staircase?
Yeah, yeah. She opens the door, and she says, "Oh, thank God you've come home." And you can see behind her, Habiba is in her flat. And you see little Kafiri kind of sitting on the floor. He's kind of curled up on the floor. It looks like he might be sleeping.
Good evening, Mrs. Hudson. Assalamu alaikum. I kind of call past her towards Habiba and her
Yes.
son.
You can see Mrs. Hudson's quite surprised, maybe even taken aback. And she looks at you curiously. She obviously has no idea what you just said. And she said, this woman handed me this, and she hands you the crumpled up piece of paper that has your address on it. And she made me to understand that you had invited her here.
Yes, it was a open invitation. She was very generous and treated me to dinner the other night. I wanted to repay the favor. However, I certainly apologize. I wasn't entirely sure when she'd be able to come.
Oh dear. Well, I wish you'd told me. I've rather run out of things to keep them occupied. It's been several hours.
I apologize.
She doesn't seem to like our tea. She kind of laughs nervously.
No, I believe she most likely wouldn't. Um, please, I can bring them up to my loft.
Yes. Habiba is already kind of scooping up Kafiri in her arms and coming, and you can hear her saying in Arabic to Mrs. Hudson some thank yous and apologies, which of course Miss Hudson has no idea what she's saying, but she just kind of smiles and nods and says, I'm sure it's quite all right.
Yes,
And
she's just expressing her thanks towards you. And thank you as
okay.
well. I'll be sure to purchase you some sweets next time I'm out on town.
She kind of leans over a little and she says, what language is that?
Arabic.
Oh, how interesting. Well, I'll leave you to it. And
Thank
she
you.
kind of steps aside, and Habiba kind of looks at you. Um, Make a psychology check for me.
Really good at those.
You are what you are.
Yeah. Psychoanalysis or psychology?
Just psychology. Yeah. Okay. Um, so yeah, you're just a little maybe flustered yourself. I'm not sure. But you're a little distracted, and so Habiba just kind of steps out into the hall and doesn't quite seem to know where to go. And Mrs. Hudson kind of closes the door, but not all the way. You can see she's kind of peeking out curiously.
Yeah. Good evening, Habiba. Would you like to follow me to my loft? I'm so sorry that I've been out late. It's been a precarious night. I probably wouldn't
Um,
know the word precarious in Arabic.
no, but you'd say something to that effect.
Yeah.
Maybe a dangerous night, or yeah. What word would you use?
Difficult, maybe?
Okay. Okay. Um, she just kind of nods, doesn't say anything, and waits for you to lead the way.
Yeah, Alice will walk up the stairs towards her loft, and bring her
Okay.
inside.
Okay. Yeah, she steps inside and kind of looks around. Um, and you can kind of tell she's looking for a place to set Kafiri.
Yeah, Alice will walk in front of them. I'm so sorry for the mess. Please, she kind of clears a chair of books and
Mm-hmm.
papers. Please, and she's gonna motion for her to set Kafiri there. And as
Okay.
she's doing that, Alice will just say, Are you hungry? Would you like anything to eat?
She nods, but doesn't say anything.
Alice will nod back and go towards her kitchen to see if
Okay.
she has anything that she thinks Habiba might like or be okay with.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay. All right. So yeah, something simple. It's not going to be, you know, perfect, but I would imagine that with your interest in the culture, you might, dabble in some Arabic style snacks and things like that. You
Yeah,
might try, making your own bread and things. But,
yeah,
so you have something for her.
Okay, great.
She accepts it, um, and she still hasn't really said much of anything, and she just kind of politely eats.
Are you okay? Is everything all right?
She says, she looks at you again, kind of for a moment, um, and she just says, "You have brought trouble to my house."
I I am sorry. What is happening?
She said, "There was a dead cat in front of my door this morning, hanging. Its throat was cut."
That is terrible. Have you two been hurt? Is this a warning?
Not yet, but the last woman that this happened to disappeared.
I am sorry. Please, if you and Kafiri need somewhere safe to stay, please, my home is your home.
She shrugs and says, "Perhaps."
What is happening? Why are the others angry that you spoke with us?
She says, "I am sure it has something to do with my dead husband."
Alice just nods quietly. What happened?
She says, "This was a warning. I will probably disappear soon." She
I
says,
will
"I have..."
protect you. We will protect you.
She just kind of frowns and she said, "For how long can you protect me?" She says, "If I have come here because you owe me now. The life of my son is in your hands. If anything happens to me, it is your responsibility to look after him. He has no one else." And she just kind of looks at you very seriously.
Alice looks towards Kafiri, sleeping in the chair, softly breathing. And she looks towards Habiba, the candlelight just shining on her very serious face. Alice nods. I understand. I will, if anything happens to you, I will care for Kafiri as if he were my own. But we can keep you safe. Nothing has to happen. I have family in where does my family live? Where's their estate?
That's a little bit up to you. I would put it somewhere probably half a day's journey from London. It's, in southern England, but not, it's not a suburb of London. It's in the countryside.
Yeah. I have family in the country where it would be safe, where no one could bother you. We can keep you safe. You will not disappear.
She says, "I hope you are right."
Do not worry, Habiba. I will make sure that Kafiri will have his mother.
You can see she looks at least somewhat relieved from the way you are responding. You have somewhat reassured her. um, and she nods. She says, I was not entirely honest with you before.
Alice sits up a little bit more.
My husband was not a good man. He may have been at one time, but he was not in the end.
Was he cruel to you?
She shrugs and says, no more cruel than any husband to his wife.
In what way was he not a good man?
He turned away from Allah. He became a part of what is known in our community as the shameful house.
I have notes on this. Hold up.
And you can see that her features are kind of darkening. This is not pleasant for her to talk about.
She called it the shameful house?
Mm-hmm. That would be the Arabic. That would be the closest translation.
Yeah, for sure.
It's, it implies a kind of a gathering of shamed people, right? Of people that have something to be ashamed of.
Yeah,
almost like voluntary exiles. They have chosen to step outside of what is accepted.
Yeah, I know I have notes on people that were kind of exiled and shunned when Sneferu and the other pharaohs took over. Just trying to find it. While I'm looking for that, she'll ask.
Yeah, I think it would be something you remember that you have those notes, right? So is Alice trying to go grab notes and flip through them?
She's more like trying to recall it offhand because she mentioned it to the group recently.
I'll let you make an intelligence roll for that. That's called an idea roll. See if you remember. Oh, you remember it exactly. Let's see.
Now we can both look for it.
Yes, I know.
Oh, I found it.
Yeah, but you can see exactly.
What?
Alice's research.
The shameful house connected to worship of the old gods in Egypt.
Habib just says, I don't know what or who they worshipped, but they had all turned their face from Allah. He used to make occasional insults, even of God, saying that he had found something worthy of him, something that would, a God that would listen.
Did he ever name this god? Did he ever
She
talk
shakes
about
her
it?
head. She said, I asked him about it twice, and he struck me both times and told me it was none of my business.
I'm so sorry. Do you know the
She
other...
says I was also being insolent. I was haranguing him for abandoning his faith. He did not like it when I did that. But I felt it was right. It needed to be said.
I understand. Do you know the others that are involved with the shameful house? Are they a large community near your home?
She says she says he only ever once brought any of his new friends back to the house. He seemed ashamed of it. He did not want them to see it. I saw them, but I did not recognize them. But I saw them again when I went to find him at the Blue Pyramid Club. That is where well, it is known that many of them are there. It is not surprising. It is known as a place of sin, of shameful pleasures.
Thank you. Do you believe your husband was...
She looks at you and says women are allowed to go there.
They are.
She nods.
Why
She
is
says
that?
it is most disgraceful. The owner is not, well, the owner pretends to be a religious man, but everyone knows it is just a show. He is a coward. He does not want to be shunned by the community, so he gives to the mosque and he goes and says his prayers and says all the right things, but his actions show otherwise. He is a man of the flesh. He has very European tastes, she says, and there's a kind of, she says it with a little bit of a sour bite to her face when she says that.
What is his name?
The owner?
Yes, if you know it.
Abdul Nawisha.
Thank you. Do you believe your husband was killed because of his new beliefs, or do you know what happened?
I know that my husband was greatly distressed in the last 2 days of his life. He was unhappy. He was in an unusually bad mood at all times. Clearly something was troubling him. He seemed determined to fix whatever was wrong. I heard him mumbling under his breath something about that. he must find a way. And then he wound up like the others. He said he was going to make everything right, and he promised he would bring money back with him when he returned, but he never returned. He wound up beaten and killed like the others of the house.
Were everyone that was killed members of the house?
I don't know if all of them were, but it is known in our community that these men that died this way are associates of this house, the shameful house.
And you aren't sure why that is, or who's doing it?
She says, I don't know. I did not want to know.
I understand.
I was sad for my husband and for his soul. I wish he had been a better man, that he had had time to change his heart and come back to God, but he did not. Allah punished him, no doubt. This is what happens when you turn your face from God. He turns his face from yours. I suppose Kafiri and I are better off, unless we wind up dead or disappeared like others have gone.
Alice shakes her head. You will not. You will be able to raise your son with the proper beliefs. Do not worry, Habiba. It will be okay.
She says, I have no money and no one will employ me. How am I to live? How am I to make a life for him? No man will marry me.
You have me. You have Mr. Pepin. He is a very wealthy man. We can help you. You are not alone. We are on your side. We will make sure that you and your son are cared for.
Try a persuade check for me.
Not sure how good I am at that. Nope.
That's all right. I mean, it doesn't. I'm just gauging a sense of how persuasive you are beyond the words you're using.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so you know too. I mean, what you actually say is far more important than what you roll on checks. It's just that influences sort of the way I interpret it a little bit.
Yeah. I figure the way I would imagine these fails go is she's obviously very concerned and afraid, and I'm just not able to pull her out of that well enough.
She's still, you can tell, I mean, she has visibly calmed down since you brought her in. Initially, you may only be realizing it now how much she was fidgeting earlier, because I think you were probably a little nervous, it sounded like, to begin with as well. And so now you can kind of see that she's at least calmed a little bit. And she says, do you truly mean that Kafiri and I can stay here with you for the time being?
I do. For as long as you will need. I will keep you safe.
She stands up and walks across the room to where you are. And kind of stands in front of you.
Alice stands up from her seat, kind of meets her gaze.
And you can see there's just a single tear in one eye. And she kind of steps forward and embraces you.
Yeah, Alice
but just says nothing.
Alice will hug her back. It will be okay. Do not worry.
And she pulls back and kind of glances over at Kafiri. And she says, and she looks around and she says, if it is not too much trouble, I could sleep here on the, I assume you have something of a, I don't know, maybe you don't have a sofa. That may not be something that's part of your apartment.
Yeah, I mean, I know I would have a bed, and I think Alice would probably offer that.
She refuses, but you know enough about custom that she's refusing out of politeness because she's supposed to do that, and then you're supposed to insist, and then she's supposed to accept.
Yeah. Please, I will have it no other way.
It would actually be insulting to you if she insisted on not accepting your hospitality.
Yeah.
So she accepts it, and carefully moves Kafiri over to the bed, and she says it is all right if you want to sleep in the bed as well. It is your bed. There is room.
Thank you. I would like for you to get as much rest as you possibly can. I have some research that I need to do. I will.
She says, I am quite accustomed to sharing a bed with all of the family. She says, where I am from, we do not each have our own bed. This is a very curious custom of your people, that you can afford to do such a thing.
Alice smiles. I will join you both shortly.
And she she readies herself for bed, and you can see she's very tired, and it does not take her long to settle in, and you can hear her quietly, kind of a purry kind of snore coming from her.
As she's sleeping, I remember that kind of passage. The unclean ones were driven into the desert, and no decent persons would give their daughters to them in marriage. But I think, as part of my father's notes, I think I'm going to try to find those notes again and maybe see if I can find anything else regarding that.
Okay. I'm sure you can. You've been over these things, you've been studying them constantly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take you too long to find them. Yeah, there isn't any more juicy detail. It's, and clearly, I mean, the circumstances are quite different. This is, back in those days, it was a pantheon of gods. It was, a belief in certain ideas and truths about life and that sort of thing, as much as worship of specific gods. And so the turning away was more like turning towards an unclean kind of opposing idea, more primitive and brutal than what was at least relatively civilized at the time.
Yeah.
Of the pharaohs.
Okay, yeah. Alice, once she finds that, she's a bit hyper aware, just kind of worried about Habiba and Kafiri, and worried perhaps that they were potentially followed.
Mm-hmm.
But she's going to put out the candle lights and just sit for a while.
Okay.
Kind of listening, watching, making sure that nothing happens.
Okay. Why don't you attempt a power check for me?
Cool. I don't happen to have, like, a hunting rifle or anything. No, I wouldn't. Not in
I would
London.
expect not in your flat.
I might have a knife nearby, though. If
Yeah,
that's okay.
I believe you have. I think you. Oh, I mean, yeah, you can get a knife from the kitchen.
Yeah.
Certainly. And you have certainly fired a rifle in the country.
Yeah, we've talked about, like, my dad used to
yeah.
take me to do that.
Yeah. So you know your way around a gun. I wouldn't imagine you have. Although as you're thinking, you do remember that in the box, your father's service revolver is in there.
Good to know. Does it have bullets?
It does not.
That'll be something I shop for in the near future.
Yeah. Okay, you succeed. You don't fall asleep unless you want to fall asleep in the chair. You wait, but after an hour or so, you're getting tired. So you can make yourself stay up longer if you want to.
Yeah, she's just...
But nothing has happened. It's been quiet. I'm sure you've been thinking, but you've had a long day too, and you're starting to get tired.
Yeah, I think she tries to stay up a bit longer, maybe like 20 or 30 minutes, and then we'll slowly drift off, unless something happens.
Okay, no, nothing happens.
Okay.
In fact, when she wakes up in the morning, Kafiri and Habiba are awake. And when you wake up, Kafiri is standing in front of you and just kind of looking at you with this curious little smile.
Alice smiles towards him. Good morning, Kafiri. Did you sleep well?
He kind of puts a finger on his lip and nods. He looks a little embarrassed.
I'm glad. Are you hungry?
He nods.
Well, let's see what I have in my kitchen. Alice will go
He
and
follows. Okay.
See
follows
what
you.
she can possibly cook up for the both of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. He's standing next to you and he keeps looking at you. And you can see he wants to say something, but he's definitely too shy.
Is everything okay?
He kind of reaches up and pulls on your sleeve to try to pull you down closer to him.
Yeah, she'll kneel down or just kind of squat down, getting eye to eye with him.
He puts his mouth up to your ear and he whispers, obviously in Arabic, "Where's the pretty lady?"
Alice smiles. She is nearby, staying in a hotel. Would you like to see her?
Gives you the biggest smile you've seen this morning.
I will take you to her.
He turns and kind of does he wants to run, but he makes himself sort of not run because he's not supposed to run inside, obviously.
Yeah,
And
obviously.
goes to his mother's side and he whispers in her ear. And she says something quietly back to him.
Alice smiles at the both of them and turns and starts cooking something. Is everything all right?
Habiba comes in and she says, "Can I help with anything? I feel useless sitting over there watching you make something."
Of course. I think we both realize that you're the better cook than I am. And so she kind of scoots over and points at ways that she can help.
She just says, "You've had no man to have to cook for."
That is true. It has always just been me.
She says, "Did your mother not teach you how to cook?"
Alice shakes her head. No, my mother died when I was born, unfortunately.
She nods, kind of a serious nod.
My father was never able to bring himself to remarry.
He must have loved her very much.
Alice just kind of nods. I think he did. But he was always there for me. However, we always had others that were able to cook for us.
You had servants.
My father was a wealthy man back when I was growing up. Yes.
I assume your brothers inherited his fortunes then.
My uncle. I was the only child.
Well then, at least you will have a fine dowry.
Indeed. My uncle very much is pushing me to marry, but I am not quite ready yet.
She looks at you and she says, "You are quite ready to bear children."
Not emotionally ready. My father was a researcher of sorts. He loved studying about Egypt and its history, the pharaohs, hieroglyphics, and there were certain things that he was researching that he was never able to finish. And so I am trying to finish those things for him before I move on.
So you are a dutiful daughter. That is a good thing. And you've finished, and she starts to set the table.
Thank you. What was your family like?
She starts to tell you about it. I'll have to tell you another time. I'm actually going to have to cut the session short.
Oh, you're perfect. Don't worry.
But yeah, she tells you about her life back in Egypt before coming here.
Yeah.
She was a pretty young girl when her family moved here. Unfortunately, her parents both died of a disease and left her, but they married her off before that happened. So
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. I figure this is good because then, like, next session it'll be us meeting at the Ritz.
Right. Yeah, she has no family here, essentially. And her husband's family, though he does have some family members, they do not speak to her or
Mm,
Kafiri.
interesting. Um, all right. Yeah. She's got family now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, cool. Thanks for meeting.
Hey, it was good.